Could the Dallas Cowboys use more four wide receiver sets during the 2023 season? All that more in this episode of the Locked On Cowboys podcast.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your
Locked
daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked on
Cowboys.
Locked on Cowboys.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Today's episode is brought to you by Bird Dogs. Go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNFL. And when you enter promo code LockedOnNFL, they'll throw in a free custom Bird Dogs Yeti style tumbler with every order, just like this one right here. Again, Locked On NFL. Go to birddogs.com. I am Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. He is Landon McCool. You can check him out on Twitter at McCoolBCB. Landon, the Cowboys had their second minicamp practice on Wednesday. They finish up today with a 45-minute walkthrough. One of the biggest takeaways from that practice is we saw a lot of four wide receiver sets with the Cowboys, with CeeDee Lamb in the slot, with Jalen Tolbert kind of working out of the slot, Brandon Cooks on the outside, Michael Gallup on the outside. Do you think this could be a staple of their offense going forward?
Well, let's take an examination of what you just talked about, and let's marry in a couple of other things we've heard. Right, we've seen more 3 and 4 wide receiver sets. I think that they clearly are obviously comfortable with their top 3 wide receivers. We're still waiting to see exactly what Gallup is doing, but I think that what they've seen, they're comfortable with what Gallup is doing. And I think that they've enjoyed what the leap that they've seen from Jalen Tolbert. He sounds like he's more comfortable in his job day to day. Simi Fehoko, who was a guy that at training camp last year was doing a really fantastic job, got injured early. And then apparently, according to Mike McCarthy, who spoke yesterday about this, was practicing so well at the end of the season last year that they thought about calling him up to the game day roster to get him some reps near the end of the year in the postseason. So all this leads to me to believe that they're actually happy with their top 4 and or 5 receivers, and they are wanting to kind of give them opportunities. Now, let's also add in another piece of information separate of that. We've heard more and more talk about the running backs being more involved in pass protection, at least changing some of the angles. We haven't gotten any particulars, but there's been rumbling that Blesko has come into the running back room and changed how pass protection is going to work for the running backs. What that could mean is that we're going to see an uptick on 6-man protections that include running backs more than tight ends, so that you can have more 4 wide receiver sets and deploy them out in that way, and have the running back being the primary pass protector while you're deploying 4 wide receivers out into formation, giving you the best opportunity to kind of to take advantage of defensive backfield. So I think that if you look at all those things combined, and then obviously the fact that Mike McCarthy is a West Coast guy, morphing into a Texas Coast guy, that I think is also lends to the fact that he will like to play with some more wide receivers. So, for a team that didn't play a ton of 4 wide receiver last year, part of which is they didn't have 4 great wide receivers at all points during
They barely
the season.
had 2.
Yeah. So I think that now that they feel more comfortable about the position, they feel like they have some talent there, and just the kind of general change in scheme that they're going through, I think it lends to the opportunity for them to have more 4 wide receivers.
Yeah, the only way the Cowboys use more 4 wide receiver sets is if they feel comfortable that they have at least 4 receivers that they feel like they have to get on the field. And we can talk about Jalen Tolbert because it sounds like he had another really nice day.
Yeah.
Talked about Simi Fehoko, but the guy that you didn't even mention was Kevontae Turpin.
That's right.
Who, according to Todd Archer, on one of the touchdown drives at the end of the game or at the end of the practice, he caught 3 straight passes to kind of get them into the red zone. And then it was Brandon Cooks that caught the touchdown. Now, I have my doubts about Kevontae Turpin being like a full-time receiver just because he's pretty inexperienced. But if he proves to be somebody that you can have as your 6th receiver and you can run him on 5 to 10 snaps a game, then I do think we'll see more of these 3, 4, maybe even 5 wide receiver sets.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the very least you can put him in there in some specialist packages where either he's, running a route that he's very comfortable with, or he's playing a decoy, or he's taking a handoff on a reverse, or
Or he's
I
the
think
guy that's in motion, right? And all of a sudden he's in the
exactly.
backfield, and he's the guy doing some of the orbit stuff. I think that's probably more likely. But
Yeah.
again, it's nice to have that guy so you can pull Tony Pollard off the field for 3 snaps in a row and give him a little bit of a breather.
Well, I mean, the other thing too is that it's not even just like it's not just the guys individually, but the fact is that your fourth wide receiver could be a combination of any one of those 3 guys.
Yep.
Like that means that I think you'll see more 4 wide receiver sets simply because you can still have a wide variety of playing styles and body types on the field, even with the 4 wide receivers, just kind of depending on who you deploy in those groups. So I think it's something that the Cowboys should look to take advantage of. And I clearly sounds like they are.
One of the things, again, we're going a lot off of just like tweets from reporters and
Yeah.
pictures that we've seen. But one of the things that I noticed, because DallasCowboys.com does a great job of putting out pictures from the OTAs in the mini camps, is that it seems like there's this effort to make sure that CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Cooks are playing either next to each other or right beside each other or on the same side of the field. Like I saw it in a couple pictures yesterday where CeeDee's playing in the slot, Cooks is playing the outside, and then they have those guys kind of doing some crossing routes, picks for each other. Do you think that's purposeful? Like just to get your 2 best receivers next to each other, or what are your thoughts there?
I do think it's purposeful. I wonder if it's a case where they're trying to get these 2 kind of some chemistry and running 2-man concepts off of each other in order to kind of get each other open, and maybe some of the kind of timing, especially if they're practicing like rub routes or something like that, you kind of have to work on understanding exactly how to run the route right off of the guy. So getting a lot of reps with between those 2 kind of on the same side of the field gets them ready for when you want to use CD as a guy to rub the defender off of Cook so he can go down the field, or just playing off of each other a little bit. I don't know that the offense is necessarily going to feature that a ton, but I think that it's good to get those reps early so you can kind of get the chemistry of what it's like to run a route next to a guy and then know exactly, hey, this is when I break in this route to make sure I'm off his back hip so the guy has no chance to kind of run through that, and I'm making sure I'm getting a clean pick on the guy when he's running across the formation.
Last thing here before we move on from the wide receivers is, again, another strong day from Jalen Tolbert. It wasn't, at least it didn't sound like he made any ridiculous catches or anything, but he's playing way more consistent.
Which is that's the news. That's the other you want. I mean,
news.
Look, getting like a big catch here and there. That's great for Jalen Tolbert. But what we're looking for is consistency. So I'd much rather hear those notes than hey, he had 1 big catch and 4 drops.
And it seems like that's been kind of the news, just steadily looking good. And I actually tweeted about this yesterday. The Cowboys don't need him to be CeeDee Lamb or Brandon Cooks. What they really need Jalen Tolbert to do is just be a viable number 4 receiver. And if you can do that, the offense is going to be just fine. Lynn, I want to get your thoughts on Mike McCarthy and Dak Prescott, both talking about the Texas coast, or the Tex coast as you trademarked it. We'll get to that next. This episode is brought to you by Bird Dogs. Bird Dogs make you look so good. Bird Dogs stretch khaki shorts are designed to fit slimmer through the thigh and leg, giving you a truly sculpted look. Bird Dog shorts do the exact same thing as Lululemon, but fit way better. They fit way better than regular shorts that are made of a stiff, restricting cotton. Bird Dogs have fixed this issue by inventing cloud knit fabric that looks just like khakis, but stretches so you get a way slimmer fit without having to sacrifice movement. Bird Dog uses anti-stink sweat wicking fabric that keeps you cool and dry all day long. I actually just got a package right before we jumped on both of my shorts. Landon, he's showing off the tumbler right now.
Tumbler.
Yeah. So if you want one of those tumblers, all you have to do is go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNFL and enter promo code LockedOnNFL for a free Yeti style tumbler with your order. That is birddogs.com/LockedOnNFL for a free Yeti style tumbler. Lynn and I both have them. They're absolutely fantastic.
They're incredible. They're great.
You won't want to take your Bird Dogs off. We promise you. We want to thank you for making Locked On Cowboys your first listen every day. Every day. On tomorrow's show, we're going to answer your Twitter questions. So please send them in to me at Marcus_Mosher, and we'll get to as many as possible. Landon, I want your thoughts on Dak Prescott trademarking the new offense, Texas Coast. What does that actually mean?
Well, it means that they don't have any kind of branding guy inside the quarterback room.
Work.
Texas Coast doesn't roll off the tongue like Tex Coast. I even threw out later Friscoast. You know, I mean, you're in Frisco. I mean, that one works too, right? Like,
how about Best Coast?
Listen, I already got a trademark on that one, buddy. So yeah, I mean, I think it look. I think this is going to be a story because it's catchy and, you know, oh, we got a name for the offense now. I don't know if it means a lot. You know, I mean, I think the truth of the matter is every year, every team invents a new offense. You know, like that's the reality.
You have to.
Yeah, I mean, you start with the kind of, you know, some templates. You know, that come from West Coast or concepts or come from Coryell concepts or, you know, or Earnhardt Perkins or whatever, right? You start with templates of offense and then you kind of work in what works. And really, I think, you know, McCarthy and Dak and a lot of these guys have all talked about it in the last few days that this is about making the quarterback comfortable. It's the quarterback's offense, really. Whether what you call this or that. I mean, McCarthy went to a whole diatribe about Ducase and about this passing concept. And then at the end of the day, it didn't matter what he called it. He asked Dak what he wanted to call it because ultimately Dak has got to be the person to own this kind of thing. So whether Dak, you know, calls it Tex Coast or Texas Coast or whatever they call it, I think there will be elements of West Coast in there. I think it's kind of a West Coast mentality being played through the Cowboys kind of current playbook, right? It's like, because it's not like, look, last year, it's not like the Cowboys didn't have wide zone plays and bootleg plays and play action plays that are bootleg, you know, rollouts. These are all, you know, heavy tenets of a West Coast offense. I mean, there's West Coast stuff all in the playbook already. So again, a lot of this is about, you know, who's calling the plays, a mentality, you know, slight changes in just preference of how the offense is run. You know, I think it's neat that they came up with a name for it, but I don't know that it's like, you know, they're not
groundbreaking or anything.
Yeah, they're not
nothing new, right?
They're not reinventing the wheel. This is their flavor of what a lot of other people do. To call it its own offense is fine because, you know, I mean, what is an offense? You know, that's we can have a whole show on what the West Coast offense actually is and what is required in order to be called a West Coast offense when in reality, it's just a collection of plays that you decide to use and how you call them and when.
It's kind of a non-story, right?
It really
it's just it's 2023 Dallas Cowboys offense. That's all it is. Every team has to change and evolve a little bit on offense from year to year. You don't go in with the same exact playbook because if you do, defensive coordinators figure things out really quickly. So you have to have variations. You've got to change the way that you call stuff and the wording and all that kind of stuff. It's not really a big deal at all.
No.
So, all right, let's talk about some other things that happened kind of at training camp at minicamp. Not quite the training camp.
Not quite.
Yeah. I'm going to keep bringing up Matt Let's-Go. We heard Mike McCarthy talk about him yesterday at the podium, and he said that he's had an unbelievable offseason. And it seems like the buzz has been overwhelmingly positive here. Now, I don't want to compare it to him to Terrence Steele because that's not fair. But it does feel a little bit like what the type of buzz we were getting from Terrence Steele after his rookie season, where it's like, hey, he dominated the offseason. We're really excited for this leap. I think we're trending in that direction.
Yeah, I think we got some more answers too. And Mike gave a very long kind of answer about Let's-Go and what he's done well. And one of the things that I think you and I were both confused about, you know, despite having a great offseason, was that he was also getting a lot of work inside at guard, which, you know, if you look at his body, doesn't, you know, just standing there, it doesn't seem like it would be a good fit, right?
I saw a thing yesterday of him and Tyron Smith just standing next to each other, and he makes Tyron look small, which I don't know how that happens.
He's 6'7", like 320, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So he's a big boy. But I think the thing that really kind of separates him from a lot of these other taller, bigger tackles, which is allowing him opportunities to play inside a guard, is that he has incredible lower body flexibility. He's able to get down in his stance, coil up and kind of play with leverage, which is what you are worried about when you're playing guard, is that, you know, some of these leggier, taller guys, even though they have good length, It's tough for them to kind of get into a coiled stance and then kind of deliver a blow quickly. And that's the other aspect, right? Is guard things happen so fast inside at guard, right? Your hands have got to be quick. So you have to have a guy that can physically kind of hold up with the speed of the game. That just shows you what kind of athlete that Matt Waletzko is. I think even they were probably surprised by the level of athleticism they were getting from this guy when he showed up. And now you've seen it where, I think he's going to be in the mix for a tackle spot. We'll see exactly where on the depth chart that exists. But I also think that they're going to be looking at him as more than just a tackle, maybe a guy who could be a four position swing guy. That'd be incredible. Or at the very least, just a guy who could be the kind of anti Tyler Smith, right? The guy that's the right side version of Tyler Smith.
That's what I was going to say. I wouldn't be surprised if they're trying to make him a right side player, because look at the team right now, right? If you're going to play Tyron Smith at left tackle and Tyler Smith at left guard, I think the thing is, if Tyron were to go down with an injury, you kick out Tyler Smith to play him at left tackle. Or if you're in a game and you don't want to do that, you could play Chuma Udoga, who's also working at left tackle, right? I think kind of sounds like the Cowboys are keeping Udoga on the left side. And then on the right side, you have Terrence Steele as your starting right tackle, but there's no clear backup. Maybe that is Waletzko, right? And if heaven forbid that Terrence Steele and Tyron Smith are down at the same time, that's when you go to Waletzko to be your right tackle, and you just kind of leave him over there. To me, that seems like that's what the plan is right now for the offensive line.
Yeah, and it makes sense too. If you talk about it kind of just, let's loop in Udoga more into the conversation, right? I think that if the plan is, hey, we've got Tyler, Tyron, and Chuma as our left side players, that's a complete solution to me, right? You've got a guy, Chuma, who I think he could be a decent guard if he got full-time practice there. So if you need to plug him in at guard, you kick Tyler out to tackle if Tyron gets hurt. That's your solution. If Tyler gets hurt, you plug in Chuma at guard. If Tyron gets hurt, but for some reason you don't want to kick out Tyler, Chuma's got experience playing left tackle. And then on the right side, the same thing between Zach Martin, Waletzko, and Steele, right? Steele gets hurt, you pump in Waletzko out there. If Martin gets hurt, this is a game day solution. I'm not saying if Martin got hurt long term, you might have a more kind of layered competition there. But to have a guy that can kind of come in on each side of the offensive line and play either of those two positions just to kind of get you through a game, that's really smart game day roster building. And I think that will really help the Cowboys in kind of that position flex that they need.
Let's talk about some of the other notes that we have coming out of Cowboys camp from Mike McCarthy next. All right, Landon, just a couple other notes really quickly from Mike McCarthy. He talked about Kelvin Joseph on Wednesday, said this is the best offseason that he's had. He's really becoming more comfortable in the slot. Do you buy that the slot is the best spot for him?
Yeah, I mean, I think it does make some sense, right? Just because he's a physical, he's physically capable of playing the position. I think that's a lot of the problem at times, is that either you need to be a very heady player if you're not going to be an incredibly physical player inside, or you need to be an incredibly physical player, right? So I think that he has shown that he has the physical ability to play that kind of cornerback position. He's got the kind of loose hips and athleticism that I think works in the slot very well. And I think if he can upgrade his awareness to a level that it is comfortable and that he's seeing the patterns kind of, deploy out in front of him well, McCarthy talked about it yesterday that, getting him looks inside will help him play outside too. It's all about kind of understanding duty to play inside, on the field, but also giving him good experience so he knows, what everyone else is doing when he does play outside. He understands what's happening up for him inside.
All right, just a couple other notes really quickly. CeeDee Lamb got a little banged up at the end of practice on Wednesday. Mike McCarthy said it's nothing serious. We're going to hold him out through Thursday practice. It sounds like it just banged legs with, I believe it was Izzy McQuamo. No concern there.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like there was some concern at the moment, but it sounds like everything's okay. And yeah, I don't know that you need to have CeeDee Lamb prove anything else in a mini
No.
camp practice at this point.
No, the other couple of things, Zach Martin, we found out, has a soft tissue injury. He's going to be ready for training camp. Seems like the Cowboys are just going to be overly cautious here. DeMarcus Lawrence did have a knee scope this offseason. That's why he didn't practice. But my biggest takeaway here is that Mike McCarthy he doesn't want to get in any trouble with those.
He's not getting fined.
After back-to-back off seasons of getting fined, he's not doing it again.
Yeah, he's got the Cowboys have planned for all that extra cap money space. Mike McCarthy's got planned for all that non-fines money that he had saved away in his wallet. So yeah, I think he's playing it safe. And look, I don't think it's the worst thing, right? You've got a team that, even though it's young, it's experienced. So I think you can get some of these younger players some more teaching opportunities. Let's let the real hard competition go on in training camp where it's safe.
Last thing before we head out, Mike McCarthy was asked about the Dalvin Cook situation today. He said, really good player, not going to comment. Again, doesn't want to get fined because that thing has not been official yet. But any interest in Dalvin Cook at all?
I think that there's going to be some talk about it. They'll kick the names around. I again go back to what we've said before. I think the Cowboys should go into training camp with what they've got, see what they have in these guys, and then see who's available. Then it doesn't need to be Dalvin Cook that you sign as the other running back. So if he gets signed by some other team, more luck, more power to him. Good luck, and have a good career in Miami or wherever you're going. But I think that there's going to be plenty of opportunities for other running backs if you want them. Let's see what the Cowboys have. Maybe they have something better in house than what Dalvin Cook is,
and cheaper, right?
Yep,
you might have something better and cheaper. And the good thing is, hey, if you missed out on Dalvin Cook here in June, I promise you there's going to be another running back available in August. There'll be one available in September and even October. Like Derrick Henry could just be like, the Titans could be 0-8 and they want to move on, right? And you get Derrick Henry for a fraction of the price or whatever. Like there's going to be options out there. That's the one position I don't need to have filled and, fixed on June 8th or whatever. I think the Cowboys will be just fine.
There are certain positions you have windows, right? And like that's your only opportunity to upgrade the position at a starter level and
like offensive tackle, quarterback.
Yeah, you got to draft it. That's the only way, or you're going to pay big money in free agency. Those are the only ways to upgrade the position. Running back is absolutely not that position. Running back can be upgraded, or at least you could get a solid quality starting running back probably almost any point in the calendar year off the street.
Yes. Sorry, I keep saying one last thing, but I did remember the Cowboys. Seems like they're making some behind the scene moves with some of the analytic department.
Oh yes.
And I forgot the guy's name from the Colts.
Park is his
John
last
Park
name, right?
is his name, right?
Yeah, John Park. Yeah.
One of the most universally liked analytic members in the football community. He actually worked with Frank Wright with the Colts on game day stuff. He was on the field. It sounds like the Cowboys have gotten a pretty good win here. Also hearing some whispers that they're going to continue to poach some more people from that Colts analytics staff. So be on the lookout for that. We'll have to talk more about this when we get some time. Maybe we'll bring in our friend Daniel Houston, who's got a really good, grasp on that situation later this summer. But just wanted to mention that before we head out. That is it for today's show. Thank you guys for tuning in. On tomorrow's show, we'll be talking about some of your Twitter questions. So please send them in. You can do that to me at Marcus_Mosier. Go follow Landon on Twitter at McCoolBCB. We are free and available on all platforms. We'll see you guys right back here tomorrow.